Just over 2 weeks ago, Kawhi Leonard made his return to NBA action. He has played in 4 games since, with his most recent performance against Brooklyn showcasing a vintage Kawhi effort in a dominant 59-point victory. Currently, the Clippers sit 5th in the Western Conference with a 23-17 record, all while Kawhi is still ramping up. Given the team's strong performance, what can we infer from Kawhi's play since his return, and what does it mean for their future? Looking at Kawhi's numbers post-return, they might not immediately stand out, as his box score lacks significant volume. However, Kawhi's shooting percentages haven't been up to par either. He's hitting just 46% of his 2-point attempts, a career low by a significant margin, and is shooting just under 36% from 3, which would be his lowest mark in over a decade. To be honest, though, I don't find these numbers concerning. The small sample size of just 4 games means these percentages are naturally volatile and could swing drastically with a single hot or cold shooting night. In my opinion, it's simply a case of shaking off the rust. He's leaving most of his longer jumpers short, which is a clear indication that he's still working on getting his legs under him. If we're 20 or 30 games in and this is still an issue, then it might be a cause for concern. For now, though, I'm focused on the types of shots he's taking and the process behind how he's getting them. As a jump shooter, I'm looking to see whether he's creating enough separation to generate high-quality looks, or if he's relying solely on his shot-making ability. In this regard, his game looks sharp. He's been very methodical in picking his spots within the flow of the offense, and his handle looks as good as ever, which allows him to consistently find space. In fact, I don't think Kawhi gets enough credit for being one of the most effective ball-handling forwards in NBA history. His freakishly long arms make his ability to operate with such tightness and control an absolute anomaly. Just watch this play. The way he crosses over and goes between his legs with such speed and conviction is not something we typically see from a lengthy wing. Along with his tight handle, he's always possessed excellent body control and the ability to change directions quickly. By my observation, that's still very much intact. So when it comes to creating separation in the mid-range, I think Kawhi is still the same player. His ability to change direction is also one of the traits that makes him an excellent slasher. He's not just a threat to pull up for jumpers, but also to attack the basket. That said, there are 2 athletic traits I'm watching closely and am a bit concerned about with Kawhi. The first is his vertical explosiveness. It could simply be a matter of getting back into game shape or being cautious due to injury management. But in the brief time we've seen him play, he's shown almost no explosion off the floor. As a result, he's struggled to score in transition or in the paint, which is concerning for a player who has historically been an elite finisher around the rim. This lack of vertical pop could become a significant issue if it persists. In addition to his limited explosiveness, I've also noticed a decline in his attacking burst. While his ability to change direction has been crucial to his slashing, the key factor has always been his first step, which has been noticeably absent so far. Take this play, for example. He sets up the offense with a high ball screen, and when he gets the switch, he turns the corner but doesn't build up much speed. As a result, instead of getting inside the arc, he's forced to settle for a much tougher step-back 3. Again, it's important to emphasize that Kawhi has barely played recently, and a couple of weeks from now, he could very well be back to his normal self. However, based on how he looks right now, he's not a player who's consistently putting pressure on the rim. Thankfully, Kawhi has seemingly every counter in the book for when his driving lanes are taken away. With his tight handle and quick change of direction, he's always able to create a new lane. His ability to make shots from every angle gives him such a high floor, even when he's not at his athletic peak. Additionally, he's built like a tank with a top-tier mid-range game. so he can always rely on the bump-and-shoot mid-range jumper for reliable offense. However, if he truly lacks the burst to consistently beat his defender and the verticality to finish at the rim, it might not be in his or the team's best interest for him to operate primarily from the perimeter. At this stage, you could argue his two greatest strengths as a player are his physical strength and impeccable footwork. With that in mind, the team should focus on having him operate inside the arc as much as possible. In fact, that's exactly what I'm expecting, because if you recall, that's primarily how the Clippers used him over the past 2 seasons. They often had him curling off screens in the paint or establishing position in the mid-post, where he remains one of the toughest players in the world to defend. Even in the brief glimpses we've seen this season, this part of his game looks unchanged. He's still spinning with the same agility, reading defenses quickly, and making all the right counter-moves to get to his preferred shots. In particular, during that recent blowout against Brooklyn, he was an absolute surgeon in the mid-post, scoring 23 points on an incredibly efficient 8 of 11 shooting. To be honest, having a high-level post-up game to complement what the Clippers already do adds a significant layer of diversity to their offense, making them a tough matchup for most defenses. Most of their possessions start with a pick-and-roll between Harden and Zubac. If the defense plays in a drop, Harden will turn the corner and execute the 2-on-1 situation with near perfection. If the defense hedges, Harden looks to get the ball to the short roll, where Zubac's quick decision-making allows him to consistently make the right reads. If the defense switches, Harden will either isolate and score himself or find Zubac in the post, as he too can exploit mismatches. That forms the baseline of their offense. From there, they incorporate some action for another 20 points per game. Scorer in Norman Powell, who can do it all, from pick-and-rolls to off-ball screens, taking advantage of all 3 levels of scoring as one of the league's ultimate off-the-catch weapons. However, there are 2 issues with this approach. First, Harden is now heavily reliant on his jump shot, and whether the 3-ball is falling or not, it could significantly impact whether Harden has a very good or very bad scoring game. When you factor in some of Norman's limitations as a ball handler and creator, it can cause the offense to stall, leaving them without a consistent go-to option to bail them out of tough situations. That's where Kawhi's post-up game makes the biggest difference. Secondly, because of some of those limitations, as I mentioned with Norm, when Harden is on the bench, the Clippers often struggle to create enough shot opportunities to consistently generate good looks. By staggering Harden, they ensure they always have a legitimate go-to on-ball player. Additionally, it's important to note that as soon as Kawhi's jumper fully returns, he'll seamlessly fit into whatever the Clippers want to do, thanks to his ability to play off the ball. He's been an elite catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter for his entire career and excels at relocating and positioning himself to create space. Whether the Clippers are running pick-and-rolls or other sets, Kawhi's off-ball movement will make him a crucial part of their offense, and rolls for Harden, curl screens for Powell, or even post-ups for Zubac. Kawhi is an immediate fit. Going back to what I said about a diverse offensive attack, that's 4 wildly different players, all capable of giving you 20 points depending on the defense they face. There's always a button to push, and that's a really big deal. Interestingly, it's the defense that has primarily been winning them games. Through 40 games, they've actually been just the 22nd best offense in the NBA, scoring less than 112 points per 100 possessions. While I don't expect Kawhi to come in and completely transform that, I do expect them to improve significantly. He makes them a lot more scheme-proof, which is a crucial factor for their success. On the defensive side of the ball, the Clippers have had the second-best defense, allowing just 108 points per 100 possessions. It's still tough to fully assess defense in such a small sample size, But from watching Kawhi, there are some encouraging signs. At this point, it's fair to say that Kawhi's ideal role isn't at the point of attack. Not only has he lost some lateral quickness, but there's also a lot of wear and tear that comes with picking up the ball at half court, chasing players around screens, and dealing with that kind of responsibility over the course of a season. Those aren't tasks you'd want him handling regularly. However, I do think he's still quick enough to keep the ball in front of him in most situations. And of course, he still has some of the best hands we've ever seen, combined with his long arms, which allow him to make some incredible plays on the ball. As a wing stopper against opposing 3s and 4s, I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi remains one of the best defenders in the league. That's a big deal because, given the way this Clippers team is constructed, that's really all he needs to do. They already have one of the best point-of-attack defenders in the game in Chris Dunn, who can chase guards around screens and wreak havoc. They also have Derrick Jones Jr., a freak athlete capable of guarding most positions. All of this is tied together by one of the best drop bigs in Ivica Zubac, who anchors the paint and ends nearly every defensive possession by dominating the glass. As a result, Kawhi can seamlessly integrate into the team's defensive scheme without missing a beat. The Clippers like to switch actions between their wings to keep a body in front of the ball, while Zubac patrols the paint and cleans up anything that comes his way. As I mentioned earlier, I haven't seen any indication that Kawhi has regressed as a defender. With him on the floor, they possess so much versatility and playmaking on defense that I'm genuinely unsure how opponents can break them down. If you ask me, I believe the number 2 defense just got even better, while likely elevating the offense to an average or slightly above average level. Historically, that combination has been the recipe for many contending teams. For example, the 2024 Timberwolves had the league's top defense paired with the 16th-ranked offense. Similarly, the 2022 Warriors boasted the second-best defense and the 16th-ranked offense. The 2020 Raptors had the second-ranked defense and the 14th-ranked offense, while the 2018 Celtics combined the second-ranked defense with the 18th-ranked offense. To be clear, I'm not directly comparing the Clippers to any of these teams stylistically, or claiming they're better or worse than them. However, I'm simply pointing out that there's precedent for the recipe they've put together leading to significant success. That said, none of this matters if Kawhi can't stay healthy. Sure, the Clippers have been competitive throughout the season without him, but if they head into a playoff series and he isn't fully healthy for all 7 games, there aren't many teams in the West I'd confidently pick them to beat. So, I understand why some might have their doubts or even dismiss Kawhi entirely when it comes to playoff conversations. After all, he hasn't been consistently healthy for a postseason run in nearly half a decade. However, what stands out to me is that this is easily the best regular season team he's been on since the Raptors. That means he can take all the rest he needs without worrying about the team falling off a cliff in his absence. Personally, I'd still like to see them add a better backup big and someone capable of setting up the offense with the bench unit. So, as the trade deadline approaches, I'd expect them to be pretty active. If they can address those 2 needs, then Kawhi and everyone else enters the postseason at full strength. All I'm saying is, you probably don't want your team standing in their way. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to stay updated on more content. For those interested in deeper analysis, check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. Links are in the description. Feel free to share your thoughts on the Clippers in the comments below. As always, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.